Welcome to Read Your Comics. Today I'm looking at Steel #1. This is a follow-up to my series of videos I did on the reign of Superman. After that storyline wrapped up, the Eradicator, Steel, and Superboy all got their own titles. I believe Steel's was ongoing and Superboy's was, but the Eradicator may have just been a miniseries. I never actually picked this one up, I don't believe, back in the day. I don't know why, because I did like the Steel character. Probably just got too many books at the time. So this was kind of a first look for me. My kids really enjoyed the Steel character out of the Reign of Superman story. So when I was digging in the show one couple months back, I ran across this and I was like, you know what, I'll pick that up and see if the kids like it. I haven't read it to them yet. It was really one I just planned to leave out for them to explore on their own. I have seen them kind of flipping through it, and none of them have come to me and said, hey, where's the next issue yet? So I don't know what that means for it. But I read it for the first time, and first of all, I want to say this cover doesn't jump out at me. It is John Bogdanove who did the Steel issues in the Reign of Superman storyline, but nothing about this really excites me. Maybe why I didn't pick it up back in the day. You've got a pretty basic. He's small. I mean, for him being basically the only thing on here, except they're putting the Washington Monument and the Capitol in it to establish it that it's going to be in Washington, D.C. I don't think that was necessary, really, to be on the cover. They would have been better served to just have a big, huge image of him and not having kind of reduced in size over here. I do like the Reign of Tomorrow, lets you know that it's spinning out of the Reign of Superman storyline. On the cover, it's credited to Louise Simonson and Bogdanove, who were the two that worked on the Man of Steel title, and I'm pretty sure they were still working on it at this point. Batista and Faber. So on the cover, I was like, oh, John Bogdanove moved over to this. And he didn't. He's actually credited, though, as the writer. It says, written by John Bogdanove with Louise Simonson. So I don't know the ins and outs of Bogdanove's career. Maybe he wasn't ever known as a writer, and this was a kind of a writing gig he wanted to do. Perhaps he wanted to take some ownership over the character. Not legal ownership, but creative ownership. But maybe he wanted to do more with the character and flex some writing ability, and they probably had Louise Simonson helping him along with it, as just kind of a guiding force for somebody who was not familiar with the writing process. Anyway, but you got a different penciler is Chris Batista, who I'm not familiar with, and inked by Rich Faber. And it's pretty solid art, I would say. I mean, that's a pretty good looking, muscular human figure right there. He's taking a bus, which initially kind of I thought was kind of funny, that here's this guy who just went through all this stuff through the Superman story, and he has to take a bus back to Washington, D.C. But we're establishing that that's where he's originally from. That's his hometown. So he's going back to his hometown. He has this girl who's his niece, calls him Unca Hunk, and jumps on him and plants a big kiss on him, and he's holding her kind of, I don't know. That was a weird thing for her to be calling him uncle. And, I don't know if this is the same niece. I do know in the story 52 that came out many years after this, maybe about 10 years or so after this, and Steel played a big part in that storyline. And 52 is really good. If you've never read it, I highly recommend it. But the Steel parts of it, he did have I believe it was a niece. And she got involved with Lex Luthor to become a superhero. And I don't know if it was the same one, because I don't remember her name. So at the bus station, they get attacked, and it's these Toastmaster guns that were part of the storyline of his Man of Steel run. Kind of going backwards into that story, because he thought he had destroyed the factory in the Man of Steel series. See, we're getting some pretty good penciled pages here. Pretty good backgrounds. People getting blasted by the Toastmasters. It was established in the Man of Steel book, and then they kind of recap it here. He used to work for a weapons company, and he created these guns, but then had kind of a change of heart that, they were being used by, I don't know, third world warlords and stuff, being sold on the black market to him, and he didn't like the idea of that, so he left the company. And he mentions how he's supposed to be perceived dead here, and I don't know, I can't remember if that was in the Man of Steel story, like after he left that company and he was laying low from, the main company then, or if there was something that happened between the end of Reign of Superman and this actually starting, because this has a February 94 cover date, whereas the Reign of Superman wrapped up with an October cover date, although it was really like in August. But so I don't know if he faked his death or something in between there, or I just don't recall it happening in the main Man of Steel book. This is a pretty interesting panel thing here. You've got a pretty good shot of him not wearing a costume, jumping over the car. I thought this was interesting because of the way he does it. So he throws his duffel bag and it smashes the car. I mean, obviously he has the steel stuff. They kind of hint towards that the duffel bag is really heavy. But he throws it so hard that it dents the car. He's supposed to be just an ordinary guy, right? Just like really smart and can build like an Iron Man suit more or less. He throws it hard enough to dent the car. But the way this is laid out, I think it's funny because like you've got the duffel bag breaking the panel. The guy hanging out the top of the car looks like he's actually getting hit by this giant bag, right? And the smashing there. But then down here, you've got the car running off the road into like this lamp pole. And the way this is drawn with his foot looks like he's kicking the car into it. So I don't know if all that was intentional. It kind of, I mean, I noticed this first and I thought, that's funny. I wonder if he did that on purpose. And then I noticed this and I was like, I think he did. I think he did do that on purpose. Anyway. So he gets the guy out and he wants to know where the Toastmasters are coming from. And all of a sudden this big hulking arm hits him with like some dialogue box that this is going to be not just like a big strong dude. It's going to be some kind of monster. And this other gang is drinking this stuff that turns them into like little hulks. And I mean, dang, they go and rip this guy in half. And I guess that they're resistant to the Toastmasters. So, these Toastmasters that apparently are such dangerous weapons, they can't stop this thing. So he gets involved there and he gets knocked out. Thankfully, they didn't rip him in half. When he wakes up, the paramedics are there saying the niece helped. I guess they're trying to establish the niece is pretty bright herself. And he goes to meet up with his family who hang out on a stoop. And I don't know where this is in Washington, D.C., but... And then he's like having a meal with his family and stuff. And, they're just kind of establishing the family and the family dynamic. There's like the grandma and his mom and dad. And then these aren't like little brothers and sisters. Maybe they're like, maybe this is his sister. Maybe it's his sister he's visiting and her kids because it's his nieces. This might be his. No, that's the niece right here. I don't think they do it. The niece's face changes quite often. But he calls her moms. And she's, I forget what he calls the grandmother. He calls them moms and pops. Anyhow, then they're attacked all of a sudden at the house, which I guess that was back here. There was this one panel of, I guess there was somebody across the street watching the family the whole time to see if he would ever pop up. Even though he's supposedly dead, I guess they didn't believe he was dead. And they send in these armored up mercenaries. I don't even know if they're mercenaries, but they say he's under arrest. And he's like, you're not police. And he fights them off. Again, you got some pretty good paneling. His feet get weird. Although that's pretty consistent with the other foot. He's got some high heels on. He fights them off. And notice we're almost done. We're on page 19. We have not seen Steel put on any Steel stuff yet. I mean, he bites him off. You know, the grandmother gives him a frying pan, and he beats him off with the frying pan. And he mentions how he designed most of the tech that's in these suits. Like, even these like things kind of look almost like the gauntlet things he would fire like railroad spikes out of. So he beats him down, and he says he disrobes them, because it cuts to the next page. He's like, those guys will wake up. They'll wake up like somewhere and in their undies. And then he decides he better rebuild his Steel outfit. There was some inconsistency at the end of Reign of Superman, where at one point it looked like the Steel armor was just completely destroyed. But then the next issue, he was like getting off of a helicopter from coming back from Coast City, and he still had like some remnants of it on. I guess this is those remnants. So he decides to reforge it. I mean, this is all kind of the same thing that happened in his first appearance in the Man of Steel book. And he has a new outfit. Looks like it has some darker black kind of like undersuit with the steel accents of the boots and shoulders. And I think they should have kept the Superman S, honestly. It wouldn't have been confusing, and it looks better. But we don't get him in his outfit until the very last page of the first book. And, you know, if you'd been reading the Man of Steel in the Superman story, that probably isn't a big deal. But maybe you skipped that story, and you're like, oh, they're keeping that character around. He's getting his own series. Let me check that out. You've got him on the cover, but you wait until the very last page. That should have happened like in the middle. Otherwise, when I compare this story to the first appearance story, or like the origin story, I've got it right here. Hold on. When you compare it to this, it's almost the same story. He goes through here, the Toastmaster things come, they kill some innocent people on the street. You know, he fights them off, just like he did in this one. I mean, it's almost beat for beat. Now, he does end up in the hospital there, but he gets out. There's the Superman connection. Then he decides what he's going to do, so he's going to forge the outfit. Now, he does do it in the middle of the issue here, and you've got a, you know, awesome looking shot there of him coming out, and he saves some people right away. But otherwise, it's like that first part of the book is the same exact thing as what happens in this. I mean, almost exactly. So, for that reason, I think that this isn't a great #1 issue. This series lasted a while, though. At least maybe 3 years. I don't know if it made it to issue 50, but I think it definitely got up near 30 something. So, you know, how long did Bogdanov stay on it as the writer? I don't know. So, if those are answers that you have, please drop them in the comments. Until next time, read your comics.